Tech Twice Weekly, episode 44. Welcome to Tech Twice Weekly for February 5th, 2015, or February 9th. I can read the calendar. This is your source for the most important technology news stories and discussion every Monday and Thursday evening. My name is Ben White, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Eric Fee. Hey man, how are things going for you?
Pretty good. I'd just like to note that I am basically your co-host now, dude. It's been long enough.
I think that's fair. I think we probably should promote you to co-host at this point. In fact, I will double your salary.
$0 to $0.
How's that? Doubled salary. That's how we start this show off.
Can't ask that from many bosses, although I only have one boss that pays me $0. That's you. Just slave driver.
Yeah, in fact, I probably cost you money.
Yeah, there's that mixed board I bought.
Costed you money.
But I'm still happy to be here.
Wonderful. Do anything interesting over the weekend?
No, I took back some defective hardware to Harbor Freight. So, normal Harbor Freight procedure.
Right. Well, I guess that's slightly better than the use it once and then return it to Harbor Freight procedure.
Yeah, I wanted to use it once, and I was contemplating returning it, but it didn't work, so...
Yeah, no, I had a pretty boring weekend. Just kind of hung around with some friends, played some poker on Saturday, and relaxed on Sunday.
Groovy.
All right, well, let's jump into our top stories for tonight. Have you been wanting to pick up the OnePlus One smartphone but haven't managed to get your hands on an invite? Well, Engadget is passing along OnePlus One's announcement that starting next week, every Tuesday at 12 a.m. Pacific, there will be a free-for-all for the 16GB Silk White and the 64GB Sandstone Black smartphone for 24 hours. This isn't the end to the OnePlus invite system, as invites will still be required to order a OnePlus One on any other of the 6 days of the week. GigaOM is covering the news that Google will be dropping support in Chrome for the Speedy SPDY Internet Protocol in early 2016 in favor of HTTP2. Google developed Speedy protocol in 2009 to support sped-up optimization for web page loading. But since the newer HTTP2 protocol has been developed, it offers similar speed optimization as well as being more likely to be adopted cross-browser. What do you think about this change? Google originally starting with a proprietary option built into Chrome, but now actually dropping their proprietary development to go with a more community-developed version.
Well, that sounds normal. I mean, they can't, if people are going to start supporting HTTP2, then there's no reason to have Speedy anyways. Also, just so people know, the HTTP2 protocol is directly based on Speedy. So it's not like they're having to give up a whole lot to get people to use Speedy. They're making a new protocol based on it that people are going to pick up as an open standard. So switching from Speedy to HTTP2 is not really a big deal.
Okay, so it's actually more of an evolution of the protocol rather than a replacement.
Kind of. It's still similar, so there's no reason why they would try and stick to their guns when they kind of already won by influencing the way the protocol is going to be made to begin with.
Nice, that makes sense. All right, well, Fast Company is reporting on Imager's 6th birthday present to its users, Imager Pro Tools for Everyone. Imager has decided to put an end to their paid Imager Pro program and has opened up all of the image editing tools to all of their users. Previously, Imager was charging $23.95 per year for access to Imager Pro, which included image editing tools along with unlimited number of account images, as well as image analytics, as well as protecting images up to 10 megabytes from being compressed by the service automatically. Now, all of these tools are free to any Imager user. Digital Trends shares an interesting piece of marketing savvy from Microsoft. Microsoft is offering to give 100 gigabytes of OneDrive cloud storage away for free for 1 year to all users who subscribe to their new Bing Rewards program. So, in exchange for Bing Rewards emailing members several promotional emails every month, you can gain access to some extra cloud storage. Is the trade-off worth it? Perhaps, especially with the right email filtering put into place. Do you use OneDrive storage at all with the so many different cloud storage solutions out there?
No, I pretty much use my own storage, which I have a lot of it, and I use Google Drive. I got 100 free gigabytes for like a year or two when I bought my Chrome. That came with my Chromebook. So
Yeah, that would make me pretty convinced to stick with Google Drive.
yeah, I already just use it anyways. It integrates so perfectly with my phone, and their desktop app is good. So I'm like, eh.
Yeah, I originally was spread out between Google Drive and Box, .NET, and Dropbox when all the cloud storage wars originally started. But at this point, I've really consolidated down to Dropbox and Google Drive. And of course, my own storage. But I don't think, if this was permanent, if I was locked into 100 gigabytes of storage, I'd probably jump on board. But if it's going to go away in a year, or at least ask me to pay for it in a year, the last thing I want to do is get committed to anywhere near 100 gigabytes of storage and then put me in a situation where I either have to rehome that data or start paying for it. Because if I was going to pay for it, I'd be paying for it already. Well, we reported a few weeks back on Sling TV gearing up to offer their own internet TV service, and Android Central is reporting on the service finally opening its doors to the public after a brief invite-only beta period. Sling TV, owned by parent company Dish, is an internet-based TV streaming service offering 15 popular TV cable channels for $20 per month. Additional channels can be subscribed to a la carte. The service right now works on the web with PC or Macs, on Roku, as well as on iOS and Android devices. If you want to check it out, you can sign up for a 7-day free trial on the Sling.com website. Currently, the service is only available in the US, but Sling has said they plan to roll it out to more regions as time goes on. What do you think about this? I know neither one of us are huge TV connoisseurs, but we both have our shows we like to keep up on. Is this something you think you'll be subscribing to?
I don't know. I'm not really convinced just because having not watched broadcast television for so long and not being into sports, I kind of just think that it would be, I wouldn't really use it too much, but the price is fairly low. And I'm going to suggest that my dad picks it up because he would be saving a lot of money on his bills because he does like to watch sports and other stuff. And his daughter likes to watch Disney and that kind of junk. I think it'd work really well for him.
That's a really good point because for a dad with kids, it's going to be perfect because you've got Disney, so the kids have something to watch. You can keep them occupied. Maybe make sure they don't get too deep into the Cartoon Network back catalog. There's some questionable cartoons there, but he'll have the sports, he'll have news if he's interested. And it's going to be Comcast's offering by a long shot. Let's see. So with the default $20 package, you get ESPN, ESPN2, TNT, TBS, Food Network, Home and Garden Television, Travel Channel, El Rey, I don't even know what that is, the Maker Channel, Adult Swim, Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, ABC Family, CNN, and Galavision. I don't know what that is. Then the a la carte options are you can add Sports Extra, which gets you ESPNU, SEC ESPN, ESPN News, baseball, basketball, soccer, and some other sports channels. Another $5 can net you the HLN channel, the cooking channel, DIY, Bloomberg channel. That's their news package. And then Kids Extra can get you Disney Junior, Disney XD, Boomerang, Baby TV, and I don't actually even know what this other icon is. Duck TV. I have no idea what Duck TV is, but you can get it in the Kids Extra package. I don't know. I'm tempted to sign up for the 7-day trial to check it out, especially to see how the quality of the streams are, how much compression is involved. That's my biggest question.
Well, not only that, but how the user interface is, how the mobile apps are. There's so much to streaming TV and media that sometimes gets forgotten. We're used to Netflix just being excellent, because it is. A lot of the features it offers now are kind of standard, and that's awesome because we're used to a level of streaming television that before Netflix we never really knew could be. And there are whole new HTML5 stuff, makes it work even better, although it doesn't work on Linux, which is terrible. But
doesn't work on Linux?
No, I was just trying to watch Netflix the other day.
I thought that had been fixed.
Well, I think it wasn't fixed. It was just available. It worked, and then now it doesn't, for me at least. But I have been watching some stuff on Amazon Prime recently because it's no longer on Netflix, and it's only on Amazon Prime. And I'm pissed off with how crappy. Like, watching the show is fine. As long as I'm watching it, I'm fine. But like having to navigate to and from, and figure out where I was last in the streaming because if you've watched something more than once, it doesn't keep your spot a second time, or let you like quickly resume to where you left off. You gotta go search it and then scroll through, find what you were watching before. It's a pain. And although it works, the interface is definitely very, very far from Netflix quality. And it doesn't work on Linux either. So that's annoying as well. So if Slingbox has a great interface, or works great, works on the platforms I care about, then great. I mean, totally sounds like it's totally worth $20 a month. If it's going to suck, then well, then.
Yeah, and 7-day free trial, no strings attached. I see a weekend coming up with some extra TV watching built in. All right, where are we here? 9 to 5 Mac is covering Apple's release of iOS 8.3 to developers. The newest update brings wireless connectivity to the CarPlay service to iPhone, so no longer will drivers be required to connect their iPhone using an antique cable. Poor iPhone users having to use a cable to connect their phones to their car stereos. Another notable feature is an update to improve how well iOS handles Google's two-factor authentication for account logins. The last feature of note is the implementation of a much expanded, and this is important, you better listen to this one, Eric, this is a feature that you're going to probably want to jump on the iOS train for, more emojis.
Dude, my computer doesn't work. My emojis don't work in Chrome right now, and on my PC, and it's making me really sad. people are using emojis in their like Reddit posts now, and it's like I can't see. It's just a box. No, I won't know how they feel.
You need Res installed probably.
My Chromebook emojis work in Chrome. My Chromebook. It's unjust. Damn it.
You gonna jump on iOS just to get more emojis?
Obviously, I can't live without them.
Wonderful. Well, Ars Technica brings us Netflix's announcement on the service launching in Cuba. The service will be available for anyone with an internet connection and $7.99 US a month. Of course, Netflix controls the catalog of shows and movies it offers regionally, so it's hard to guess what surprises Cuban Netflix users might discover when they go to look up their favorite movies or shows. But Netflix did say in their press release that Cuba will have access to a curated selection of content. But that's just the good news. We'll have more on this topic in our discussion section. And our last story for the day, Neowin is sharing the news that Microsoft is moving along quite quickly with their development of Windows 10, with updated technical previews being released at a fairly regular pace. According to Neowin's sources, Microsoft is aiming to have Windows 10 consumer ready as early as June of this year, just in time to allow hardware developers to get it implemented on their devices to be able to offer it to consumers for back-to-school shopping in August. And while this time frame seems quick, it is actually pretty close to on pace with Microsoft's Windows 8 development cycle when it first came out. What do you think about moving to Windows 10? Are you plan to be a early adopter as soon as it's available, or do you think you're gonna kind of sit it out a few cycles and wait till everyone gets the bugs worked out?
I'd like to get it pretty early. I mean, they're usually, well, I don't know. Windows 7, I got Windows 7 Pro early, and I was fairly happy with it. And I don't remember any huge glaring problems. Windows Vista was just a problem, and it's kind of like a sore memory that we all have to kind of like, why did I upgrade from XP? And Windows 8 for some people is a problem. I don't think there's anything wrong with it technically. I just think that the whole start screen thing makes you want to, not use it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been a big fan of Windows 8, a proponent in fact, and I actually have grown to really enjoy the Windows 8 start screen. I'm kind of hoping that the smaller version that has been moved into the actual start button in Windows 10 is going to offer me a lot of the same functionality. I'm actually probably one of the few people not looking forward to losing the start menu in its current iteration. But that being said, I'm looking forward to Windows 10. I have no problem with Windows 8, but I've been a front runner on the last several Windows updates, jumping on them as soon as they're available. And I plan to do the same with this one. I've been considering jumping on the technical preview since my home desktop is, I could run anything on it as long as I can record the show. But so far I've held off.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's cool, and I will probably use it earlier rather than later.
Especially since it's free.
Yes, exactly. Which is cool. I have been playing with the technical preview now and again, and it seems to be coming along. I'm looking forward to a replacement to the control panel that's actually a replacement and not just a skin, which would be nice. A lot of people like the idea of having the control panel there because they're used to it, But if you kind of look at the control, step back and look at it objectively, the control panel's a pain in the butt.
Well, and it's pretty dated. I mean, it hasn't changed much from all the way back to Windows 3.1, really. Just gotten more icons in there.
Kind of. Some things have changed. Windows 7 added a bunch of stuff, new stuff. They're like the newer, larger paneled things. Windows Vista added like the network connection manager interface and all that kind of stuff. So they've been slowly adding things to it, but I'm looking forward to a new unified interface that brings things to makes them a little bit better.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up our tech stories. So I've got one tech toy that you wish you could buy here, and this is kind of a throwback I found on Gizmodo. It's almost comical, but considering we recently, last week, were talking about a camper that you could back up into the water and become a boat, I just had to bring up this exaggerated, basically an RV that you drive into the water. It's an ad from just after World War II, and I don't know, it's almost comical looking at these ads. Do you have a chance to pull up the link for that one? I want to see your reaction to these pictures from the advertisement.
I actually already looked at it, and the pictures are freaking awesome. How cool is that thing?
It's a tri-axle.
Well, what are you going to do? I mean, if it was modern, it would just be a dually. But, I mean, it looks bigger and more like menacing and all this other stuff than it really would be. Like we have RVs.
You say that. I'm looking at the picture here. It has a bar, bunk bed, bulkhead bookcase, couch bunk, deep freezer, sink, dishwasher, Pyrex oven, shower, toilet, let's see, lavatory for the bathroom, random seat, table, seat, cabinets, built-in television into a wall somewhere, another bunk bed. This thing is like a tank.
They have RVs that are like that already. And in fact, they have RVs that are that big and that feature rich that also go in the water.
What?
Yep.
What?
Yep. I don't know what they're called. I'll look it up though. Terra Wind, yeah, that's it. The Terra Wind. I don't know what's up with that name, but it is an amphibious motorhome.
Wow, that sounds incredible.
It's a dude.
I bet the price tag isn't incredible. Well, it is incredible.
The price is dependent on the options chosen. The Terrawind shown is approximately $1.2 million.
Oh, is that all? Oh, they also have the Hydra Spider, which is a sports car that doubles as a boat.
That's awesome. Not really, but it's still kind of cool. We look at standards. Tachometer. Oh, oil pressure. Woo. Sorry.
Wow, that's
the kind of gauges I have on, my Cherokee.
I like that clock is a standard.
I don't have one of those.
Well, at least you don't need a bilge ventilation blower, because if you do on your Jeep, you are probably in a bad way.
Actually, my Cherokee doesn't have them, but Wranglers have plugs in the floor that you just pull up to let water drain out.
Yes, plugs in the floor are great, but if you're in a situation where you're in your car and you need a bilge pump,
well, it better be a boat car because otherwise you're screwed.
What I wonder is how the speedometer for land and water works. It has to be two different dials, right?
Why?
Well, because water isn't water speed typically isn't measured in miles per hour.
It's a difference.
Genuinely, I've never understood, but traversing water at speed is done in knots.
Yep.
I don't know if there is a mathematical difference.
Me neither. Me neither.
We can settle this. Okay, Google, what is the difference between a nautical knot and a mile?
Is it really going to answer you like with that like poorly formed of a question?
No, it just gave me a search result.
A nautical mile
Ah,
is a
there's the
unit of
difference.
distance, the approximate 1 minute of arc measured along any meridian. By
Yes.
any international agreement, it has been set at 1,852 meters, exactly about 6,760 feet.
So, rather than using one measurement or the other, kilometers or miles, they just made an arbitrary third measurement.
It's about 850 feet longer than a mile. So, uh, a sixth of them. Yeah, whatever. Who cares? You're in a boat.
Yeah, I'll start carrying as soon as I own a boat.
Yep.
All right. Well, that brings us down to our discussion section. And one of these we talked about a little bit, but I wanted to see if you had any further feelings on this topic with some more data. We talked last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, about how much money Apple has made, setting the world record for the most profitable quarter ever for any business ever in existence. And now, Barron's is reporting on their blog that Apple has 93% of mobile profits, with an estimated 650 million users by 2018. Do you think Apple's making enough money?
Yes. Dude, I don't know, man. I feel that the amount of money that they're making means they're taking people for all they're worth. And they're probably doing horribly reprehensible things. Like evading taxes, possibly. Like underpaying their staff. Like overcharging for their product. And possibly actually bad things. Like actually morally like bad things. I don't know. And I'd care, except apparently people love what they're doing, which is weird.
Right? That's the thing that trips me up. Like, if most other companies were doing what Apple is doing, we'd hate on them. Look at how much hate Steve Ballmer's era of Microsoft got. It was ridiculed, Look compared to 1984. It was the machine, big bad Microsoft. Except Apple does nearly the same thing, has a much more closed ecosystem than Microsoft ever had, and everyone loves them. Apple can do no wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the trendiness and the quality of their products really does speak. I just think that the price doesn't. I have a MacBook that I received at no cost, and having used it for the past few years now, I would never ever buy one. And I also now know why it was given to me, because the person who gave it to me also hated it. Um, and although it's decent, it just no thanks. I would never buy a Mac laptop ever again after having using it.
Well, most of the people I know who have MacBooks and are happy with them have often bought them simply for the hardware package alone and then put the OS of their choice on there, be it Windows or Linux.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I have run Windows on it, and there are problems with that. Um, certain things don't function exactly the way I want them to. I have no way of controlling like the. Uh, well, no, they work. It's just not super well. I use Wake on LAN a lot at home, and then that only works kind of. If a computer shuts off, it won't wake up, but if it's sleeping, it will. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's mediocre at best. I've had problems with the screen, the backlight in the screen not turning on for whatever reason. And it works. It will turn on eventually if I do the right thing, or if I uh, force power off and then turn it back on. But it's mediocre at best. I know that they're a little bit better now than they were when I bought this one. Or when I got this one, excuse me, I didn't buy it. But for the price that was paid for it new, it's just mind-boggling. I don't know. I don't use it for everyday. I don't use it for all my everyday computing, and I wouldn't want to. I've used a laptop for that, and I'm not a big fan. And I have a Chromebook for my on-the-go, like hanging out at my friend's house. I want to do some web searching or watch a video, or if I'm going to my older brother's place in Seattle, I'll take it with me, and I'll be able to keep up on Reddit and watch Netflix and everyone else is asleep. And I take it to work and use it at work. I do presentations with my Chromebook even, and lead meetings, and it works great. And it's all the laptop I could really want, and it was $200 and something. And it's got like 4 times the battery life of the MacBook.
And technically, if you needed a full desktop interface for anything, you could always RDP or VNC back to a home computer, a home desktop, if you wanted to set that up.
Yeah, and when I'm connected to my work's Wi-Fi, I can RDP into my work computer too. So I'm really happy with it in general. But I don't want to talk about the Chromebook. I talk about the Chromebook way too much on here. Yeah, Apple stuff to me is it's just way overhyped. It's not nearly as good as anyone says it is. And every time I say, well, what about it makes you love it so much? They go, well, it's pretty. And I'm like, okay, well, it's got aluminum. It's unibody, whatever the fuck that's supposed to do for a laptop.
Make it difficult to disassemble and make any repairs on.
Yeah, and it's quite heavy. Like it's quite a heavy laptop. It gets really hot too, because it's metal. So that's what you get. And yeah, people just like them for a reason that I don't understand and I don't really agree with. I think that iPhones are way overhyped. I think that Apple laptops are way overhyped. I think that Apple's software is way overhyped. I think the usability of OS X is garbage. It's my personal opinion. So don't get all too your feathers ruffled. I'm just so into the mindset of the way I use Windows and the way I use Linux that I don't find any benefit to OS X over either of them. And the truth is when I'm at work or when I'm doing something, I need to get work done. And no matter how pretty a computer is, or no matter how the little effects it has, or little whatever, it's great. But I get work done, and I have to get it done the way I do it, because I've been developing software for 10 years, and I, I have a lot of habits, some good, some bad, and the Macs just don't jive with me. So whatever, man.
No, I think you got it right. Um, it's great, and I'm sure there's some people who are sitting on the exact same argument, but the opposite side of the fence from you, who maybe grew up under OS X, and that just happens to be their, that's what they developed their computer habits under, and it makes sense. You can be raised on either side of that fence to have one or the other be your go-to operating system. But
Totally.
I think you said it's overhype. It's not that it's bad. It's just not anything special.
That's kind of how I feel. And what really bugs me is the premium that has to be paid for it. Um, decent Windows laptops that have integrated graphics and decent Windows desktops that have integrated graphics right now are dirt cheap. And I mean, good systems with usable, tractable hardware that are also all expandable. You know, you can get laptops with regular laptop RAM, so you just shove more in. You get regular desktops with more RAM, just shove more in, replace your hard drive, whatever. But with a lot of these new Mac units, they're all soldered in, so they're
Hmm.
literally use and replace, which is how my Chromebook is. But my Chromebook was $200, so that's a huge difference in price. Um, and if it's just going to be a throwaway device, then I don't want to spend 2 grand on it for a spec'd up machine, which is what I would
Yeah.
need for a desktop or a work machine. And it's just the price is just astronomical, and it's obvious. It's completely obvious that it's completely artificial. They don't need that money to make the machines better because they just made $16 billion in 3 months. So people can't tell me that it's worth the price when it obviously isn't, because they made more money than any other company ever in the history of human society. So they're obviously taking you for a ride and you're just dealing with it. And if you don't understand that, if you don't understand and agree with that, that you're just getting taken for a ride, then you have some cognitive dissonance going on.
I think that's definitely true. There's a bit of a, what does everyone call it? The Steve Jobs. I can't think of the name, but everyone always says that when you're around Steve Jobs or around Apple nowadays, that there's this kind of illusion that everyone sees about how great everything is and what it's for and all of this. And it's all just hype and marketing. But everyone has their choices, clearly Apple's doing something right, and at the end of the day, as a business, you can't fault them for that. They're doing what sells their products, and that's all great for them. But I do have to wonder at what cost, and I don't necessarily mean dollars.
Yeah, it's a Maserati of computers. That's great. I'm worried about. I, I don't know. We've all heard about Foxconn factories in China and how apparently some of the workers there are so troubled that they are committing suicide, which is also always sad. And those factories are for Apple components, but other companies do the same thing. Um, but they pass on that blood money savings to us with cheap hardware. Uh, and I'm also worried about the future of the United States when corporations are making this much money, but they're not paying the appropriate taxes on what they're doing. And when they do that, they force the tax money to come from somewhere else, which means us. So whether you like it or not, you and I are paying for Apple's profits.
People don't think about that, but it's very true.
And that's not just Apple though. It goes for a lot of big corporations. They'll do the double Irish thing or whatever, or figure out some other way to launder their money out of the government's hands, which is basically allowed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not an unknown. It's not like we don't know about it. Um, and you look at our deficit, and you have to remember that it's not just poor spending that causes that. It's also companies not paying their fair and legal share that is established and using other ways to loophole their money out of the hands of the government, which doesn't mean the government gets less money. It means the money comes from us. And that I think is morally reprehensible, simply because just as we welfare Walmart, which is also, if you don't know about that, is huge amounts of money. We also do for every corporation that evades taxes in such a way that like Apple and other large companies do. And we're put between a rock and a hard place because we think that these companies don't need us. They don't really need us anymore. Apple is one of the few companies that kind of does, because there are a few places besides the West where people are willing to pay that markup. In many other countries around the world, knockoff devices will work, and that's why Android is so huge around the world. But a lot of these companies don't really need us, and a lot of the sayings go that I don't personally agree with, but I understand where they're coming from, the reasoning behind it. That if we truly charge and force these companies to pay what they should be paying, they will leave. Personally, I think good. Leave then.
Right. Yeah. I've definitely been a fan of the concept that's been talked about of putting extra import tariffs on companies that outsource their labor. So, that's great. That's fine. You can do whatever you want to do to save your money, but bringing it back into the country is going to cost you more, whereas if you built it in the country, you wouldn't have to pay that cost. Unfortunately, that just rolls straight to the consumer. It doesn't actually punish the company.
Well, kind of. I mean, it would. If their goods cost more money, then they would have less of a chance to sell, and it would become less of an appealing product. I mean, phones are already extremely expensive. If they cost more, then you would probably be, if you weren't forced, you may be even enticed into buying something less expensive. And good
Well,
phones don't have to be expensive,
yeah,
because the Nexus 5 is half the Nexus 5 when it came out was half the price of the iPhone at the time, and it's still dirt cheap. And although I do agree that battery life is mediocre at best, it's still a great piece of hardware.
yeah, definitely. But speaking about things being expensive, I want to get on to our second discussion topic here with Engadget, covering the release of Netflix to Cuba. And while earlier we talked about how great it was with Netflix coming to Cuba and offering it, the subscription costs $7.99, $8, which is the same price they're asking in the U.S. and across Latin America. However, in Cuba, only 5% of residents have internet access, and the average monthly wage was $20 in 2013. So I don't really understand Netflix's push to Cuba. It doesn't seem like an appropriate market to be advertising the service to. When you're bringing in $20 a month, is $8 of movies and television really that high on your priority list?
Yeah, that's true. I looked at the article you linked, and I looked at the $20 average a month thing where that's quoted from. And it says here that there are many, many LAN centers in Cuba, and full access at one of these centers is $4.50 per hour, or in other words, roughly a quarter of the average monthly wage. Now, if a LAN center costs $4.50 an hour, i.e., 2 hours, like, I don't know if I just don't know enough about the economy there. I really don't know anything about Cuba. But what I will say is, I bet that the people who live in um, more rurally make almost nothing, and the people who live in the towns probably make more. But I don't know. I obviously I honestly know nothing about Cuba.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either, but I I mean, with a statistic like that of a wage of around $20 a month, um, that I mean, your assumption about the city livers probably make more money than rural. That's pretty typical to most non first world countries. Um,
Well, I mean, hey, the average household income for a family in the United States is 50 some $1,000 a year. That's a whole household brings in that much money on average throughout this country. If you had kids and you and your wife both worked and you were bringing in $50,000, could you live comfortably where you are right now?
yeah, I mean, there definitely be less entertainment and pleasure budget out of that 50,000 a year, but I could make that work.
With
It would,
kids.
yeah. I think a kid or two, I could do it. It would not be the level of, it would not be the current level of living that I am able to experience now. It would be a lower standard of living. Um,
And
not
mind and mind
poor,
you, and
but
mind you,
lower.
you don't live inside the city either.
Right? Yeah, I'm 20 miles outside of Portland.
So, and I mean, you pay half the rent I do.
Definitely.
So, I mean, I'm just saying that, like, even in the United States, $50,000 a year sounds like a lot to some of us. And then a lot of people live on less, and a lot of people have stretched their money very well, and they know how to do it. But with a kid or more, and two people working, because two people working means you gotta have health care, you gotta have place to care for the kid when you're working. Like, you gotta be in school, you got something after that, so on and so forth. Early years are much more difficult than later years. Like, it's really hard to live on the average income in certain places, and I have no doubt that it's similar in everywhere in the world, including Cuba. Although I can't say for sure.
Right. But my main thing here is I just I don't understand the logic of Netflix rolling out in somewhere like Cuba. I mean, it's great to include them, I suppose. And I'm sure there are some people, I mean, $20 is an average, so that means there's people above the average. Some people, presumably, significantly above the average. But,
Rich folks,
right. I mean, every country has them, even,
they get they get Netflix, no one else.
right? And, well, I mean, and with 5% of the country having readily available internet access, they're probably the rich folks.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just seemed like a strange move to me to bring a service like Netflix, which is purely a luxury purchase. There is nothing about Netflix that anyone needs. It's all a want service to a place that needs a lot more than just entertainment value.
Maybe.
But hey, maybe I'm talking out of my ass because I don't know anything about the country.
Yeah.
There's a distinct possibility.
Maybe. Yeah. Who knows?
All right. Well, that's plenty of us going on for tonight. Anything you want to share before we get out of here for the evening?
Pro Cyclers After Hours episode 8 is going up tonight. After I get off the show, I'll be adding that to our website, procyclers.com/after hours. On there, you can stream the shows live. You can also find an RSS feed. All the files are hosted on the Internet Archive, so you can download them in whatever format you like. Please go ahead and listen.
Awesome. And with that being said, you can check out this show at techtwiceweekly.com. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Blueberry, wherever fine podcasts are downloaded, you can find us. And if we're not in your favorite podcatcher or podcast directory, let me know. Shoot me an email, feedback@techtwiceweekly.com. Or you can even jump on the website and just submit an email there. We're also on Twitter at TechTwiceWeekly, and you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/TechTwiceWeekly. Thank you again for listening. We'll be back Thursday with new news and whatever interesting happens between now and then. So look forward to having you back. Thank you again, and have a good night, everybody.